Morning,
Good.
Doug. How are you?
Good.
Morning, Rebecca. How are you?
Good morning, Mayor Robinson.
Good morning, Stephen, and good morning, Tom.
Morning, everyone.
Morning, Mayor Robinson and
Good
all.
morning. Hello, hello. How are you?
Wonderful, thank you.
Madam CAO, do you have all the staff you require for this meeting? Oh, good morning, Clerk Sharbeck.
Yes, good morning. Yes, I believe we do. Thank you, Mayor Robinson.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Well, it's 9 o'clock, so if I could please just have a prompt with regard to our recording when it's appropriate to start, I will do that.
Morning, Mayor Robinson. The meeting's being live streamed on YouTube and we are recording, so you're good to go.
Thank you very much, Sheila. I appreciate that. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the public meeting for April 4th, 2022. It certainly is a spring morning out there, and that is certainly welcome. On item number 1, I am calling this meeting to order. We have all members of council present, with exception to councillors Beth Hamilton and Jeffrey Shea, who have each sent regrets. I wonder if our communications coordinator will now explain the electronic features for this meeting.
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. Before I begin, if you get disconnected, you can dial in at 1-647-558-0588 and enter the meeting ID for this meeting, which is 817-2601-5503. It should be noted for members of the public that this meeting is being hosted on Zoom meeting software, but is also being live streamed on YouTube. Public participation and comments are not monitored on YouTube and must be done through the Zoom meeting software. Both members of staff and council have been briefed on the various features of the Zoom meeting software. Members of council and staff will be raising their hands physically on camera to speak. For members of the public, if you require any technical assistance throughout the duration of the meeting, please send a chat message to myself, Sheila Ferguson, Communications Coordinator, and I will attempt to assist you.
Thank you very much. We do have quorum for this meeting, and we'll continue on to item number 2, purpose of the meeting. Clerk Sharbeck, please.
Good morning. The purpose of this public meeting is to review applications for proposed amendments to the West Grey zoning bylaw number 37-2006, and to allow interested members of the public the opportunity to ask questions or offer comments with regard to the applications. Council will not make a decision on the applications at this meeting. Based on the recommendations and information received at this public meeting, amending bylaws may be presented for approval at a regular council meeting. A public registry is available by email at sferguson@westgrey.com. And if any members of the public would like to be notified in writing of the decision on an application, they are to provide their name and mailing address for the registry. This will also allow notice of an Ontario Land Tribunal if the decision of an application is appealed. Again, the registry is available at sferguson@westgrey.com. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Clerk Sharbeck. We're now moving on to item number 3, declaration of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof. Members of council, is there anything to declare? We're now moving on to item number 4, ZA 25.2021, 214461 Baseline Road, Township of Bentic. 4.1, application for zoning amendment, Dolores Ray and Rebecca Ray. 4.2, Planner Al Spencer report. Clerk Scharbeck to the recommendation, please.
To you, Mayor Robinson, the recommendation is that council hereby receives the report ZA 25-2021, Ray Dolores and Ray Rebecca, and that council directs that a zoning bylaw amendment be brought forward for consideration at a future council meeting.
I'll take a mover and seconder at this time. We'll have the planner's report, questions from council, and then the vote. Deputy Mayor, I'll take you as the mover, and as the seconder, I see Councillor Townsend. Thank you very much. Over to you, Laura Lee Spencer, planner, and good morning.
Good morning, and thank you, Madam Mayor. The executive summary for this project is the applicants, and they received provisional consent from the Committee of Adjustment on September 13th of 2021 for file B22-2021. One of the conditions of consent for the file was the passage of a zoning amendment. This amendment is intended to rezone the lands to recognize the deficient lot area of the newly created lot and to recognize the deficient front yard setback of the existing single detached dwelling unit. The amendment is also intended to rezone the existing livestock facility to dry storage. Staff do have a note to that further final comment, which I will get to before I summarize the comments received from agencies. Comments were provided by the County of Grey, who have no concerns with the application. In addition, comments were provided from the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority, who have no concerns with the application, but have put the applicant on standing that a further permit may be required if development is proposed in future. To note the component of the existing livestock facility, further to the posting of this agenda, there has been discussion with the applicant, who has requested that the lands be rezoned on a livestock to land ratio so that the barn can actually be used in future for livestock purposes. Staff have no concerns in this regard and are not going to identify what type of livestock can exist in the facility. The livestock to land ratio would be part of a nutrient management strategy, which would identify that there is sufficient manure storage for the type of livestock housed in the building in future. Staff have no further comments at this time, but I'm happy to provide clarification as required.
Thank you very much, Planner Spencer. Members of council, are there any questions with regard to the motion at hand? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate with the raised hand. 5 members of council have voted in favor of this motion. This motion is carried. We're now moving on to 4.3, written comments received. So we'll look at 4.3.1, Grey County, 4.3.2, Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority. And in addition, Planner Spencer, have you received any additional forms of communication at this time?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. No further comments have been provided from the public at this time, and the comments from the agencies noted have been verbalized previously. Thank you.
Thank you. Clerk Scharbeck, have you received any correspondence up to this time?
To you, Mayor, no, I have not received any further correspondence. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. 4.4, verbal comments. To begin, 4.4.1, council members. Members of council, are there any comments at this time? Moving on to 4.4.2, public members. Communications Coordinator Ferguson, could you please assist at this time with the public members?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Robinson. For members of the public wishing to express a comment, you can do so in one of 2 ways. If you have joined us over the phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand, and we can unmute you at the mayor's request. Alternatively, you can press *9 again to lower your hand. If you have joined us using the online meeting software and are wishing to express a comment, please send a chat message to myself, Sheila Ferguson, Communications Coordinator, and I can unmute you, or alternatively, you can send your comment and I can read it on your behalf. Just checking the dashboard now. And at this time, Mayor, I'm not seeing any members of the public wishing to speak.
Okay, thank you very much. 4.5, next steps. Over to you, Clerk Scharbeck.
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. The next steps would be council's consideration of a zoning amendment bylaw at a future council meeting. And then there will be the 20-day appeal period. Provided no appeals are received, the applicants will be advised that One of the conditions of their consent has been fulfilled.
Thank you. Item number 5, ZA 03.2022 211721 Baseline Road, Township of Normanby. 5.1, application for zoning amendment, Cassandra Billingsley, Zach Barnacle, and Cheryl Billingsley. 5.2, Planner L. Spencer report. Clerk Scharbeck, to the recommendation, please.
Through you, Mayor, the recommendation is that council hereby receives the report ZA 03-2022 Billingsley Cassandra and Barnacle Zach and Billingsley Cheryl, and that council directs that a zoning bylaw amendment be brought forward for consideration at a future council meeting.
Is there a mover for this motion? Councillor Hergert, and is there a seconder? Councillor Hutchinson. Thank you. Over to you, Planner Spencer.
Thank you. And through you, Madam Mayor. The applicant has requested the construction of a second dwelling unit at the rear of an accessory structure which is yet to be constructed on the subject lands. The property is municipally identified as 211721 Baseline Road and legally identified as Part Lot 48, Concession 3, Registered Plan 16R 10239, Part 1, in the geographic township of Normanby. The purpose of the application is to change the zone symbol on the subject lands from any natural environment and A2 rural to any natural environment and A2 with exception 453 rural with exception. The effect of the application will permit a second dwelling unit on the subject lands within a separate detached accessory structure. Comments have been provided from the County of Grey and the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority. County of Grey comments recommend that if further development outside of this identified area is proposed, that there should be an environmental impact study completed for the subject lands. Staff will note that there is very specific zoning on this property that permits development in very limited locations based on the presence of significant woodlands. Comments were also provided by the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority, who provided caution that a permit may be required for further development of the property from their office. Planning staff have no further comments at this time, but are happy to provide clarification as required. Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Spencer. Members of council, are there any questions with regard to clarification? Councillor Hutchinson.
Yes, just a comment under the West Grey Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw. I just note that it says the A2 zone permits accessory apartments, but they are required to be located within a detached dwelling. So presumably this is a second building that they're putting the apartment in. But then it goes on to say down below that the planning staff require that the accessory structure utilize existing driveway. Okay, that's fine. An accessory apartment will not be permitted within the existing single detached dwelling unit. So does that mean that because they're putting this apartment into a garage, behind a garage or above a garage, whatever, that they won't be able to put one in their house? Is that basically what it's saying?
Planner Spencer.
Thank you. And through you, Madam Mayor, that is correct. The county official plan does not permit that second dwelling unit to have the accessory apartment because of the accessory structure of the garage, which is now going to house the accessory unit. So that is under the county official plan and carried through to the zoning bylaw.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Townsend.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, again to Planner Spencer. I was going to ask a very similar question, but since you're pretty close to answering it, does the province allow it to have an accessory or an apartment in multiple dwellings on a property, or is it also restrictive?
Planner Spencer, please.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. There is direction under the PPS for the provision of accessory dwelling units on a property. At this time, the way it works, the provincial policy statement can have comments, but the county and if we had a local official plan are allowed to be more restrictive. At this time, policies don't permit that second. They would not permit 3 units, so to speak, on the property at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, members of council? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion indicate with the raised hand. 5 members of council have voted in favor of this motion. The motion is carried. Moving on to 5.3, Written comments received, 5.3.1, Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority. And in addition, Planner Spencer, have you received any other comments?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. As previously advised, there are comments that were received from the County of Grey. They were received after the report was published, and those County of Grey comments are in favor of the application, cautioning that the development must stay within that A2 with exception area because of the significant woodlands. Beyond that, no further comments have been received by the Planning Department at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Clerk Scharbeck, have you received any correspondence up until this time?
Through Mayor, I have not received any further correspondence to the correspondence noted by Planner Spencer. Thank you.
Thank you. 5.4, verbal comments, 5.4.1, council members. At this time, council members, are there any comments? 5.4.2, public members. At this time, corporate communications coordinator Ferguson, could you please assist in determining if there's anyone from the public that wishes to speak on this application?
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. For members of the public wishing to express a comment, you can do so in one of two ways. If you have joined us over the phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand and we can unmute you at the mayor's request. Alternatively, you can press *9 again to lower your hand. If you have joined us using the online meeting software and are wishing to express a comment, please send a chat message to myself, Sheila Ferguson, Communications Coordinator, and I can unmute you. Or alternatively, you can send your comment and I can read it on your behalf. And at this time, Mayor, I am not seeing any members of the public wishing to speak.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to 5.5, next steps. Over to you, Clerk Scharbeck.
Through you, Mayor Robinson, the next steps would be zoning bylaw an amending bylaw being brought forward to a future council meeting for council's consideration. That will be followed by a 20-day appeal period. Provided no appeals are received, the applicant will be notified that they can then pursue a building permit.
Thank you. Item number 6, ZA 04.2022, 314664 Highway 6, Township of Bentic. 6.1, application for zoning amendment, Larry and Karen Matheson. 6.2, Planner L. Spencer report. Clerk Scharbeck to the recommendation, please.
Through Mayor, the recommendation is that council receive Planner Spencer's report regarding ZA 04-2022, consider the comments received, and forward the bylaw for first, second, and third reading at a subsequent meeting of council.
Is there a mover for this motion? Councillor Townsend. Is there a seconder? Deputy Mayor? Planner Spencer, your report, please.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. The applicant has requested the construction of a second detached dwelling unit on the subject lands. The property is municipally identified as 314664 Highway 6 and legally identified as Lot 8, Concession 1, Division 2 and 3 in the geographic township of Bentic. The purpose of the application is to change the zone symbol on the subject lands from A2 rural to A2 rural and A2 with exception 454. The effect of the application will permit the placement of a second detached dwelling unit on the subject lands, subject to specific conditions. The approximate location of the second detached dwelling unit is 155 meters from Highway 6 and located approximately 130 meters from the existing barn on the subject lands. Planning staff consider the location to be within the farm cluster. Comments have been provided from the County of Grey in support of the application, in addition to the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority, noting that there are some hazard lands on the property that should be noted and identified and updated in our mapping going forward. Planning staff have no further comments at this time, but are happy to provide clarification as required. Thank you.
Thank you for your report, Planner Spencer. Members of council, are there any questions of clarification? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion indicate with a raised hand. 5 members of council have voted in favor of this motion. This motion is carried. 6.3, written comments. 6.3.1, Grey County. 6.3.2, Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority. And the inquiry, Planner Spencer, have you received any additional comments?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. No additional comments have been provided at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Clerk Scharbeck, have you received any additional comments?
Through you, Mayor, no, I have not received any further comments.
Thank you. 6.4 then, verbal comments. 6.4.1, council members. Members of council, are there any comments at this time? 6.4.2, public members. Communications Coordinator Ferguson, could you please assist at this time?
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. For members of the public wishing to express a comment, you can do so in one of two ways. If you have joined us over the phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand and we can unmute you at the mayor's request. Alternatively, you can press *9 again to lower your hand. If you have joined us using the online meeting software and are wishing to express a comment, please send a chat message to myself, Sheila Ferguson, Communications Coordinator, and I can unmute you at the mayor's request. Or alternatively, you can send your comment and I can read it on your behalf. And at this time, Mayor, I am not seeing any members of the public wishing to speak.
Thank you. 6.5, next steps. Clerk Scharbeck, please.
Through Mayor Robinson, the next steps would be bylaw for council's consideration at a future council meeting. That will be followed by a 20-day appeal period. And provided there are no appeals received, the applicant will be notified that they may proceed with a building permit.
Thank you very much. I note, Councillor Hutchinson, you have your electronic hand up.
Yes, I just wanted to clarify something with the clerk there. It says that the bylaw will come forward to a future council meeting. I note that some of these bylaws are going to be on our agenda for tomorrow as an addendum. So I'm just curious whether do the applicants know of that timeline, because then that'll start the 20-day appeal period, right?
Clerk Scharbeck?
That's correct. They will be coming, most of them will be coming forward tomorrow at our regular council meeting. And my understanding is that Planner Spencer has notified the applicants, so they're able to also tune into that council meeting if they'd like to see what happens with the bylaw. And then they'll be notified as soon as their appeal period starts.
Okay, that's good. Just if anyone wants to get going on construction, it's good that we're moving this forward quickly. Thank you.
That's right. Thank you.
Very good. Item number 7, ZA 005.2022, 214691 Baseline Road, Township of Bentic. 7.1, application for zoning amendment, Edward and Betty Morick. 7.2, Planner Al Spencer report. Clerk Scharbeck to the recommendation, please.
Through you, Mayor, the recommendation is that council hereby receives the report ZA 06-2022, Morick Edward and Morick Betty, and that council council directs that a zoning bylaw amendment be brought forward for consideration at a future council meeting.
Is there a mover for this motion? Deputy Mayor. Is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor Hutchinson. Planner Spencer, over to you for your report.
Thank you. And through you, Madam Mayor, the property is municipally identified as 214691 Baseline Road and legally described as Lot 17, Concession 3, west of the Garefraxa Road in the geographic township of Bentic. The applicants received provisional consent from the Committee of Adjustment on January 17, 2022 for file B38-2021. The purpose and effect of the application was as follows: to sever one 2-hectare parcel and retain one 20-hectare parcel, the effect of which will create a residential parcel and retain a rural parcel. Provisional consent was granted with the conditions for the payment of any outstanding municipal taxes, payment of a zoning bylaw amendment application fee, payment and receipt of an entrance permit to the newly created parcel, approval of the zoning bylaw amendment, payment of the site plan application fee, and approval and execution of the site plan agreement and registration on title at the expense of the owner. And finally, payment of the $500 parkland dedication fee for the newly created lot. The zoning bylaw amendment will fulfill a condition of consent by implementing the holding provision on the subject lands, in addition to recognizing the deficient lot area and frontage of the newly created parcel and identify an appropriate building envelope. Staff will note that an environmental impact study was completed for this application and has been reviewed by both the county, the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority, and planning staff. Hence, the building envelope that has been identified as part of that process. Comments have been provided both from the county and from the Conservation Authority in support of the application on the basis that a holding provision has been applied in particular areas of the property and identifying the building envelope. No further comments have been provided to planning staff at this time. Happy to provide any further clarification as required. Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Spencer. Members of council, are there any questions of clarification? Councillor Hutchinson.
Yeah, I'm just curious with the diagram, the sketch that was sent with the applicant, and maybe Planner Spencer's already said this, but I'd just like to clarify it. And on their diagram, it shows two separate parcels, and I realized one of them's owned A2457, the other one's owned A2458. I'm just curious though why it's showing two separate parcels rather than something within the other parcel.
Planner Spencer.
Thank you. And through you, Madam Mayor. So parcel identified as A2-457 has an exception to identify the deficient lot frontage and area of the newly created lot. The area that is identified as A2-458 is the building envelope identified on the property and not a separate parcel. That is where development is permitted to occur on the property. Thank you.
Anything further?
Oh, that's good. Thank you.
Okay. Members council, any further points of clarification? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion indicate with the raised hand. 5 members of council have voted in favor of this motion. The motion is carried. 7.3 written comments received. 7.3.1 Grey County, as well as Planner Spencer. Have any other comments been received?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. After the agenda had been published, comments were provided by the Conservation Authority in support again of their review of the environmental impact study and the implementation of those recommendations through the identified areas A2-458. No further comments have been provided to planning staff at this time, but I'm happy to provide further clarification as required. Thank you.
Thank you. Clerk Sharbuck, have you received any additional correspondence?
Through you, Mayor, I have not received any correspondence that Planner Spencer didn't already note.
Okay. 7.4 verbal comments. 7.4.1 council members. At this time, members of council, are there any comments? 7.4.2 public members. Communications Coordinator Ferguson, could you please assist at this time?
Through you, Mayor Robinson. For members of the public wishing to express a comment, you can do so in one of two ways. If you have joined us over the phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand and we can unmute you at the mayor's request. Alternatively, you can press *9 again to lower your hand. If you have joined us using the online meeting software and are wishing to express a comment, please send a chat message to myself, Sheila Ferguson, Communications Coordinator, and I can unmute you, or alternatively, you can send your comment and I can read it on your behalf. And at this time, Mayor, I am not seeing any members of the public wishing to speak.
Thank you. 7.5, next steps. Clerk Sharbuck, please.
Through you, Mayor, the next step is to for council to consider the appropriate zoning amendment bylaw at a future meeting. And again, that will be followed by the 20-day appeal period. If no appeals are received, the applicants will be advised that one of the conditions for their consent has been fulfilled.
Thank you. Item number 8, ZA 06.2022 735198 West Back Line, Township of Glenelg. 8.1, application for zoning amendment, Chris Walling and Jennifer Schwartz Walling. 8.2, Planner L. Spencer report. Clerk Sharbuck to the recommendation, please.
To Mayor Robinson, the recommendation is that council hereby receives the report ZA 06-2022, Walling Chris and Schwartz Walling Jennifer, and the council directs that a zoning bylaw amendment be brought forward for consideration at a future council meeting.
Is there a mover for this motion? Councillor Hergert, is there a seconder for this motion? Deputy Mayor Hutchinson. Planner Earl Spencer, your report, please.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. The applicant has applied to change the zoning on the subject lands to expand the list of permitted uses on the property. The purpose of the application is to change the zone symbol on the subject lands from C5 with exception 124, Hamlet Commercial with exception, and Natural Environment NE, to C5 455, Hamlet Commercial with exception, and NE Natural Environment, which will permit the construction of an accessory structure.
Your audio and video are challenging at this time. Just double checking, can members of council hear me? Oh. Okay, thank you. I too have just received a pop-up note on my email that my internet is unstable. Right, just double checking. Planner Spencer, could you please begin again? As there was some internet challenges. Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. The applicant has applied to change the zoning on the subject lands to expand the list of permitted uses on the property. The purpose of the application is to change the zone symbol on the subject lands from C5 exception 124, Hamlet Commercial, and NE Natural Environment to C5 with exception 455, Hamlet Commercial with exception, and NE Natural Environment. The effect of this will permit the construction of an accessory structure to the accessory residential use and expand the permitted uses on the property with some limitations under exception 455. Comments have been provided from the Conservation Authority in support of the application, but they have requested that we update our mapping to match the hazard lines appropriately and request that development occur outside of the natural environment area. Comments from the County of Grey have also been received in support of the application. No further comments have been provided at this time. Staff are happy to clarify as required. Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Spencer. Members of council, any questions of clarity? Councillor Hergert.
Yes, thank you. To the planner, I was curious if this would be a new well and septic area, or will this be tied into existing services that are there?
Planner Spencer.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. At this point in time, we have not been advised as to whether or not there will be water and septic to the accessory structure. If so, based on topography, it's highly likely that a new well and new septic system would be required if that is the purpose, but staff have not received clarification in that regard at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Anything else, members of council? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion indicate with a raised hand. 5 members of council have voted in favor of this motion. This motion is carried. 8.3, written comments received. Is there any further comments that you wish to make, Planner Spencer?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. No further comments on this application have been received at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Clerk Sherbuck, have you received any additional comments?
Mayor, no, I haven't received any further comments out here.
Thanks. 8.4, verbal comments. 8.4.1, council members. At this time, members of council, do you have any comments? 8.4.2, public members. Communications Coordinator Ferguson, please assist at this time.
Through you, Mayor Robinson. For members of the public wishing to express a comment, you can do so in one of 2 ways. If you have joined us over the phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand and we can unmute you at the mayor's request. Alternatively, you can press *9 again to lower your hand. If you have joined us using the online meeting software and are wishing to express a comment, please send a chat message to myself, Sheila Ferguson, Communications Coordinator, and I can unmute you, or alternatively, you can send your comment and I can read it on your behalf. And at this time, Mayor, I am not seeing any members of the public wishing to speak.
Okay, thank you. 8.5, next steps. Clerk Sherbuck, please.
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. The next steps for this application will be a bylaw for council's consideration at a future meeting. If the bylaw is passed, again, there'll be the 20-day appeal period. If no appeals are received, the applicant will be notified that they may then pursue their building permit.
Thank you. Item number 9, close public meeting. Clerk Sharbuck to the recommendation, please.
Through Mayor, the recommendation is that council hereby closes the public meeting at 9:34 a.m.
Is there a mover for this motion? Councillor Hutchinson and seconder Deputy Mayor. All those in favor indicate with a raised hand. 5 members of council have voted in favor of this motion. This motion is carried. Thank you very much. We stand adjourned.